welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning and focus combination because you know I love the bergamot as well as that little zing. It's so good in the morning. I hope you guys are enjoying your cup of tea or maybe a cup of coffee or something harder, as I always say. Depends on what part of the planet you're on. Hanging out with me. I really appreciate each and every one of you coming, especially to these premieres. I've been doing these premieres as of late as a way for me to release a video, but also sit there and hang out and watch it with you guys and answer questions. It's been really good, right? So I appreciate you guys coming out to hang out with me during those premieres. So anyways, today is going to be something interesting. I called it something like Canon hires Fujifilm's customer service team. Obviously, that's not the case. It's a bit of sarcasm there, but it's kind of interesting what Canon is doing in comparison to what they've done in the past and what other companies have been doing. This video is about the Canon firmware update for their EOS R5, R6, as well as their 1DX Mark III. It's not just about the specs, but it's almost like they're taking a page right out of the playbook of Fujifilm. Fujifilm, I've always said, is notorious for giving back continuously whenever they do updates to their firmware. So instead of just doing a small update, that's all it does is do bug fixes, for example, they'll actually give more. And I always said, and I always referenced where Fuji will take a camera that was 1080p and all of a sudden turn it into 4K with just a simple firmware update, but they just don't charge you for it. They just do it, and that's it. It's a way to give back. Anyways, we're gonna get more into that in just a second. If you haven't downloaded my ebook as of yet, go pick it up over at JCristina.com/ebook. Once again, JCristina.com/ebook, 10 tips in making tack sharp images. There's something there for amateurs, pro-ams, as well as professionals. Go grab it. It's free. Is that not the best price? Free. Anyways, getting back into it. Once again, Canon is giving this update or this firmware update free of charge, but actually adding stuff into it compared to just doing bug fixes. Like I've referenced Fujifilm. Fujifilm does that all the time. Whenever they do firmware updates, they're free. And they give back. They give more to their clients. And that's why their clients love them and turn into like super fan boys and super fan girls once they start down the Fujifilm path. Now, conversely, you have companies like Panasonic, all right? When they come up with a new firmware that's supposedly going to add additional functionality, they'll charge you for it. A perfect example is when Panasonic made available Vlog. That firmware update still to this day is considered a firmware upgrade kit. It's firmware, right? It's $100. So if you want log in your GH, let's say, camera, you're gonna pay $100 for it. Well, Canon didn't do that, luckily, all right? I think they're starting to maybe get some stuff straight. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. Because that crippled frickin' sword is still there because they cripple everything. They love to cripple stuff. So we'll see what ends up happening going forward. But this firmware is very exciting, so to speak, because it does show a movement down a certain path that's no longer that type of path where they're only giving you bug fixes, basically. So anyways, let's get into it. The EOS R5. This firmware was specifically designed to add in these new features and improvements instead of, like I said, just those bug fixes. Some of them in that firmware patch, let's say, or update 1.3.0 is log. Now, we just talked about how Vlog is a paid upgrade for Panasonic. Here, Canon is giving C-Log 3 for free to anyone that has the EOS R5. Now, just to get a grasp on this, C-Log 3 is usually only provided to upper-end, high-end cinema cameras that they put out, like their C series, like the C100, the 200, the 300, the 500, the 700. Okay, they do not give that to anything else because they want you to buy their C series, right? They want you, if you want a cinema camera, they want you to go down that line. It's not a cheap line, but it's been getting cheaper over time, which is really quite good if people want to get into cinema, filmmaking, and want to go down the Canon road. So it seems like they're pushing people that way. But we'll get into that in just a second. That C-Log 3, they say it's a logarithmic gamma curve designed to achieve very wide dynamic ranges and to be compatible with cinema production workflows. That is very important. That is very, very important, okay? They're telling you what it is. Obviously, log gives you a larger dynamic range, so then later on in post-production, you can color grade a lot easier because you have a lot more data to work with, okay? You're not blowing the highlights. You're not plugging those shadows, okay? So you have the ability to be able to do a color grade that's better. Now, Canon actually states that this provides more flexibility to the EOS R5 footage, which is what it does. They call it a greater color control, let's say. Once again, that is your color grading in post-production. Obviously, you're going to have a better time of it if you have more dynamic range, and that's what this provides. Now, I personally think that that specific upgrade or update is a pathway, an easier pathway for people that have purchased a EOS R5 that are really liking the video capabilities of it, a means to go down the road of a Canon C-Series camera. Now, we know that as of late, we're seeing more budget-friendly versions of the C-Series. Like now we have a C70 that's out that you can find for about $5,000, $5,400, something like that. It's not the 10 grand, 15 grand, $33,000 of like a C700, right? They're cheaper now. So I think that this is this movement in that direction. Anyway, some of the other features that they've added in here is full HD recording. That's 1080p at 120 frames per second, which is nice. Also, a full-time manual focus, an electronic full-time manual focus, which is also quite nice. Also, the back screen now has an option to be able to be turned off. Instead of lowering the brightness of the back screen, you can actually turn it off altogether. I think that's really great. Like if you're doing astrophotography or if you're doing a wedding, some type of event where you don't want this beaming back panel, all right? It's nice to be able to turn it off and turn it back on. So that I think is pretty good functionality. I like that. It always depends on where you're working, the location, or what you're trying to accomplish. In some locations, sometimes you don't want that bright back panel. Also, they're adding into it is FTP transfer status display. So you'll be able to see how long it's going to take for that file transfer to occur. They're also adding in a low bitrate recording option. So what that means is instead of using this high bitrate where the files are extremely big, if you don't need that coverage or that footage in high bitrate or a high massive file, you can use this low bitrate option, which they're now providing in this firmware update, which is kind of cool. And they're also adding a protected image transfer, so a card setting, so that when you're saving or when you're loading images, you can kind of dial that in. Also, a bunch of bug fixes, which you have to put into these firmware updates. Now, what I'm going to do is this is the EOS R5. I'm going to put a link somewhere, maybe not in the video, but maybe in the comment area as well as the description. So you can just click on it and go straight over to Canon to go pick it up, all right, if you have an EOS R5. Now with the EOS R6, you're not getting as much functionality with this firmware version 1.3.0, but it's still worth the download. Now, you do get the low bitrate recording option, which is cool. You also get that electronic full-time focus, manual focus, which is also nice. You get that FTP display, which we were talking about earlier, where you can actually see how much time is left or how much data has transferred, how much time do you have left until it's done, this type of thing, which is also cool. The one thing that you're not getting here is log 3. And I wouldn't expect that, right? Log 3, once again, normally is provided only for extremely expensive high-end cinema cameras. And for them to provide log 3, C-Log 3 to the EOS R5, I think was amazing in itself. Obviously, you're paying a lot more for the EOS R5 in comparison to the R6, and it really feels like the R5 is becoming that bridge between the EOS R series and the C series, the cinema line. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I'm going to also put a clickable link once again in the comment area and most likely in the description for this EOS R6 update. You can just click that once again, go grab it. Now moving into the EOS 1DX Mark III. This is firmware update 1.4.0 and it has almost the exact same functionality. You do not get log. Once again, just like the EOS R6, you are getting that low bitrate recording option. A lot of people have been asking for that, so it's going across the entire gamut of their cameras because people don't want to always record in the highest bit rate because they don't need it and they don't need to use a ton of cards and a ton of space and a ton of power to be able to edit them after the fact. So a low bit rate recording option has been sought after and now it is available from Canon. Also, of course, we'll have that FTP display, status display, which is not really a big deal. They did improve the connection reliability when using FTP as well as USB simultaneously. So a lot of people have been asking for that. That has been corrected. So you're not getting a lot here with that firmware 1.4.0, just a couple of things, and that is for the EOS 1DX Mark III. So once again, I'll put that link down there, click on it, and go pick it up if you want. So the big news here is, of course, the Canon's firmware update 1.3.0 for the EOS R5. Why is that the case? Obviously, because it has a bunch of added functionality, but the big thing, of course, is C-Log 3. That is massive. That is a game changer. That is something to focus on moving forward, because in my personal opinion, it has made that Canon EOS R5 a bridge camera to their cinema line. That's what it feels like to me. Because by saying that, now you can take your footage right out of the EOS R5 and throw it on a timeline with your cinema camera, all right, and then be able to do the exact same color grading to it because it's using the exact same C-Log 3, that is massive. That is really, really big. And if you're in the film industry, you understand how big that is. It is massive. Now, just to give you an idea of the cost, remember I was saying like costs were coming down. You could pick up today like a C100, for example, the Mark II, the latest and greatest, for about $2,600. So it's relatively cheap. It's right around that Black Magic pricing, you know, down there. So if you want to go down the Canon line of a C-series camera, you don't have to spend, like I said, $33,000 on a C700. Or like $15,000 on like a C500 or whatnot. So there are options. And now we see an EOS C70, once again about $5,400. They are becoming lower and lower cost or more budget friendly because Canon sees a lot of people are moving into their cinema lineup now that the prices are coming down a little bit. It's almost the Fujifilm type of idea of medium format. Bring the cost of medium format to a reasonable price tag, let's say, a reasonable cost, and people will start buying it. We now see a lot of medium format out there, but what is it? It's GFX. Right? It's Fujifilm. It's not Hasselblad, Phase 1, anyone else. Because they're smart. Okay? We also see coming up in the news or in the rumor mill that Canon will be coming up with a Canon EOS R5C. That C standing for a cinema type of camera. Now that camera will most likely, if it is quote unquote a cinema-based type style camera, it might have an induction type of system where it has an inlet and an exhaust, where it has an actual fan in it that's blowing over the sensor like all of their C series do. That could be the case. And now all of a sudden the EOS R5 will now become that bridge into a EOS R5C, which will be the bridge that goes into a C lineup. Okay, whichever one. 100, C200, C300, C500, 700, whatever you want. So I could see that being the case. But stepping back and seeing, let's say, the entire forest and not the individual tree, it looks like Canon is going down the road of cinema. It's going down the road of movie making, okay, as much as it's doing photo. I've always said this, it has to do with hybrid photography, hybrid shooters, hybrid people. People are not just doing photo today, they're doing video also, and these manufacturers know it. They see it, and they know that if they put a camera out there that does an amazing job at photo, but absolutely sucks hard at video, people will be like, yeah, that's a piece of crap. Okay? This is what's been going on as of late. Once again, hybrid, hybrid, hybrid. Right? Most photographers today are hybrids. A lot of it has to do with them creating videos for themselves, but also using video as a secondary means of making money. Right? Photo has been having an extremely hard time, but video is still making money because it's a little bit harder to be able to get into. It's more expensive. Right? There's more barriers to entry. Okay, but these barriers are coming down. So anyways, I want to know your thoughts on this. I want to know what you think about this firmware update, but more, once again, the forest, not the tree. What do you think Canon is doing? Do you think that they're doing a good job where they're bringing in C-Log 3 and not charging you for it like Panasonic does? Do you think that they're doing a good job also bringing additional functionality? Once again, not charging you, but also similar to Fujifilm and saying, we're not just going to do bug fixes, we're going to give you more. All right? You are our customer. We're going to treat you well. We're not going to charge you to treat you well. Panasonic. Anyways, we're not going to go down that. So I want to know your thoughts. In the comment area, add your thoughts. Also, after we're done talking down here, head over to community.JCristina.com, our creative Discord server. Once again, community.JCristina.com. There's a lot of smart people over there. We have these conversations all day long, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Go check it out. It's free. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please think about doing so. Just yesterday, I got notification that I hit 500 videos. That milestone. There's 500 videos now that were uploaded by me to this channel as of last night. I can't even believe it. That's a lot of videos, right? Anyway, subscribe to the channel. Take a look at all of those back videos. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of evergreen content that I've created. Also, click this little bell icon over here so when I go live or when a new video comes up, you will be notified of it immediately. Don't forget to download that ebook over at jcristina.com/ebook. It's free, 10 tips at making tack-sharp images. And head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. I would appreciate it if you pick it up, if you do. Also, if you want to support the channel, go ahead and click this little button down here that says join. You'll become a member. I'll be able to give you perks. You provide the channel with $1 or $2 a month, whatever you so desire. It would be much appreciated. Anyways, guys, I'm out of here for yet another video. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.